Today is the first episode of How Strong Is That Pokemon, where we take a Pokemon and test their strength between D tier all the way up to double S tier. And for today's episode, our Pokemon is going to be Mega Gardevoir. To help gauge Gardevoir's strengths and weaknesses, we're going to be making 5 different categories to demonstrate the extent of her capabilities. The first being strength and durability, speed, overall intelligence, and abilities, and we will rank how proficient Gardevoir is in each of these 5 categories with a rating between D and double S. And of course, this is based off of lore, so any game mechanics such as type matchups and other such game mechanics don't matter. So enough of me rambling, and let's get started with the first category. We will first start off with Gardevoir's overall attack potency, and we will be using the strongest version of Gardevoir for obvious reasons, which in this case would be Diantha's Mega Gardevoir. Now you would think that trying to understand how strong Gardevoir is would prove to be a bit complicated because she doesn't have much screen time, but it actually isn't, and you'll see why. Part of Gardevoir's dex entries state that its full psychic energy can create miniature black holes, and if you don't know how strong a black hole is, well, that is shocking to me, but I'll say it in less than 15 seconds. Even a black hole the size of a baseball has 6 times more mass than the sun, meaning not only would a black hole tear up a planet in our solar system, but would also swallow up our sun and neighboring planets as well. So already Gardevoir has enough potency to obliterate an entire galaxy, but what if I told you we could go even further? So I'm sure you guys know about Zygarde, and if you don't, it doesn't matter too much. Just know he's a legendary Pokemon who protects the ecosystem. Now Zygarde's strength is actually going to help make Gardevoir even stronger, and you'll see why. In the Pokemon manga, Zygarde went up against Ultra Necrozma and managed to beat him in the end, but that wasn't an easy feat. You see, Ultra Necrozma was capable of consuming the entirety of Ultra Space. Ultra Space, if you didn't know, is a dimension housing an infinite number of parallel universes. So in short, Zygarde was capable of destroying a being who had the potency to destroy an infinite number of universes. But you're probably asking, how does this relate to Gardevoir, and how does all of this make her stronger? Well, my friends, I don't know. Nah, I'm joking. You see, in Pokemon XYZ, there was this trainer named Alon, who his Charizard was capable of fighting with 50% Zygarde, who we've established to be on the same level of Ultra Necrozma, who was capable of destroying an infinite number of universes. Alon's Charizard was capable of landing hits on Zygarde and keeping up with his speed, as well as surviving brutal hits from its clash. This would make Charizard on a relative level with Zygarde. Now, if you remember, Alon's Charizard faced off against Ash's Greninja, who also went up against Diantha's Mega Gardevoir. And with Gardevoir being capable of injuring and reacting to Greninja's attacks, this would make Gardevoir on a relative level with Alon's Charizard. The reason being that Ash's Greninja was almost on equal footing with Alon's Charizard despite losing. This means that Gardevoir has enough potency capable of destroying an entire universe due to the relativity between her and Zygarde via Alon's Charizard. That's freaking insane, I know. So overall, we're gonna give Gardevoir an S rating for her strength, making her more powerful than most Pokemon and even some legendaries. Now let's move on to the second category, that being Gardevoir's durability. Now this category is going to be short and simple, the reason being that Gardevoir has the capability of exerting universal levels of psychic energy, meaning that if she's capable of doing that, her body would also be strong enough to withstand attacks of that level as well. So in conclusion, her durability would be the same as her strength, making her durability also S tier. Now let's move on to the third category, that being Gardevoir's speed. Now you might think that Gardevoir wouldn't be that fast. I mean, on paper she sounds more like a slow-firing cannon than a fast-paced fighter. But my friends, when you say stuff like that, you would be terribly mistaken. First off, remember when we talked about Zygarde versus Necrozma's fight earlier? Well, that's actually what's going to help us determine how fast Gardevoir truly is. So all that stuff about Necrozma being capable of destroying universes is all true, but I left a tiny little thing out of the equation. So Necrozma isn't actually just strong, but incredibly fast too. You see, in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you're capable of riding on the legendary Pokemon Solgaleo and Lunala through Ultra Space to get to certain wormholes. But what's crazy about that is whenever you enter a wormhole, the game explicitly states that you move thousands upon thousands of light years to get there, meaning that Solgaleo and Lunala are massively faster than the speed of light, and Necrozma in every single encounter is always beating them up in a fight and of course absorbing them. Meaning, since Zygarde was on the same level as Ultra Necrozma, and we established that Charizard and Greninja are both relative to Zygarde, that would make Gardevoir somewhat relative too, due to the fact she was comparable to Ash's Greninja. Because although she wasn't on the same level as speed with Ash's Greninja, she was able to react and even keep up with Greninja's attacks, making Gardevoir's speed many times faster than the speed of light, likely hundreds upon hundreds, arguably thousands of times faster than the speed of light. Because of this immense speed, we're going to give Gardevoir an S rating for speed, making her much faster than almost every Pokemon excluding a specific few and of course some legendaries and mythicals. Now let's move on to the fourth category, which is Gardevoir's intelligence. Okay, we're gonna keep this category short and simple since I think everyone and their mom knows that Gardevoir is stupidly smart. For starters, she is a psyche and can not only sense emotions and feelings of living things, but can also do math and even see the future. Not to mention, since she's a psychic type Pokemon, she should also be at least somewhat comparable to other smart psychic types, but then again, that should be taken with a grain of salt. But overall, I'd say Gardevoir is a pretty smart Pokemon, and of course being a psychic type kind of does that, but she doesn't reach the level of intelligence as someone like Alakazam or Metagross. So for that reason, we're gonna give Gardevoir a B for intelligence. She's still really smart, but there's just tons of other smart psychic types. So as of now, she's gonna get a B for intelligence. Now we are entering the final stretch. The final fifth category is up, that being Gardevoir's abilities. So Gardevoir's skills are, to put it lightly, really broken. She's capable of manipulating gravity, since you know, black hole. She's also able to read minds and control them, being a psychic type and all that. She's also able to use telekinesis and move things around with the move psychic, and of course she's capable of teleportation via the move teleportation. I mean, it's just as simple as that. What's also insanely broken is the fact that Gardevoir has an ability called Trace, which allows her to copy the skills and abilities of her enemies. Meaning if I had the ability to summon, I don't know, dragons, and she used Trace on me, she would be able to use the same exact ability. As if gravity manipulation was enough, she also has telepathy like a cherry on top, so some could say she's a bit broken. All in all, Gardevoir's abilities are definitely way more powerful than the average Pokemon, and some of her abilities are like baby versions of Palkia in a way. So for that reason, I don't think this is a surprise for anyone. We're gonna give her an S for her abilities. Now her tiering goes as follows: S for strength, S for durability, S for speed, B for intelligence, and last but not least, S for her abilities. So overall, Gardevoir's official power level within the Pokemon multiverse sits at a S- tier. In conclusion, I think Gardevoir has to be one of the strongest non-legendary Pokemon in the entire franchise. And remember to keep in mind that this ranking does not apply to every Gardevoir in the world, just what a full potential Gardevoir would look like. And we just used Diantha's Mega Gardevoir as a basis, so although Diantha's Mega Gardevoir might not have Trace as her ability, we know that she can, so that's why we included things like that, since it's quite literally possible. But guys, that is the end of our first episode of How Strong Is That Pokemon? And if you guys want this to be a full series, comment down below because I'd be more than willing to do this for almost any Pokemon. Anyways, that's all Yuki wrote, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.